Hello class, hello everyone. My name is Ngân. Today I I want to share with you five top tips for taking notes in listening. So these tips will improve your listening skill. Now let's get started. Okay, so let's start with tip number one. Don't write down everything. Yeah. So in listening it's very tempting to write out everything that it begins said. However, I don't recommend it because if you write down everything you're listening to, it's very likely that you don't focus on the important things. Yeah, so and this at the beginning you will need later in order to answer the question correctly. Yeah, this also that means that it doesn't make any sense to write out everything that it begins said because you will not be asked everything in in the questions. You will be asked key point. Yes, so you will be asked the important things. So how can you know what the important things? Yeah. So these questions bring us directly to tip number two. Okay. So tip number two is anticipate the question. Yeah. So you must know the question type that you will be asked in listening skill. So if you know that, it will be a lot easier for you to take note that help you answer the question correctly. Because then you know what you need to listen for and what you need to write down, and this is mean that this will prevent you from taking notes that you don't need. If you want to know what kind of question you will be asked in listening, mm, have a look at my video about that. In this video, mm, have I explained exactly what type of questions will appear in listeners, and uh, and I tell you strategies uh, how to solve these questions correctly. Yeah, so now we move to the tip number three. Yeah, tip number three is don't copy the speaker. Okay, so guy in listening is very tempting to try to write down the exact same word of the speaker. So because you think I need that later in order to answer the questions correctly. However, if you try to write down the exact word in of the speaker, it may happen that you don't focus any more on the idea speaker want to convey. Um, yeah, so because you are so focused on exact word, mm, he used because you think okay, I I had to get that. I had to write down exactly what he's what he is saying. So um, and this means you may lost focus. You don't get the general ideas. Uh, but the problem is you need this idea. Um, in order to answer the questions correctly, uh, after listening, if you lost focus and don't get the idea of the speaker, you will lose point, and that's why I can't highly recommend using your own words when taking taking notes into listening. So why why you're listening, try to understand the idea that speaker want to convey, and then write down this idea in your own words. So this is only in order to answer the questions correctly. Yeah. Okay. So now we move to the now let's move to the with move tip number 4. Listen for self corrections. Yeah. So um in listening, the speaker sometimes make a mistake, and then immediately uh, after afterward he corrects himself. If this happens, uh, it's very likely that you will get the question later that ask you about this self-correction. So that's ask you what the speaker really wanted to say, and this question uh, can be quite trick, tricky, and uh, because sometimes it's really hard to get this self correction to understand that the speaker corrects himself because he wanted to say something different. Um, the the examiner used the self correction because he want to check whether you understand, and um, okay, so the speaker corrects himself. He actually wanted to say something different. Uh, this means that it's very important that you listen actively for this self correction, and that you take note of that you have to pay attention, um, especially in conversations, because in conversations it's very likely that a speaker corrects himself. Yeah. So, for example, it may happen that a student talk a professor, and the professor say the deadline for your assessment is on Mondays. Oh no, I forgot. It's on Tuesdays. So make so that you listen very carefully to things like that. Um, and so you write them down. Uh, and thorough. Yeah. So now, okay. So now let's get to tip number 5. You abbreviations and symbol. So, guys, when taking notes in listening, I can highly recommend using abbreviations and symbols because this will save you a lot of time. For example, use uh, approach to indicate that the speaker is talking about consequence. Consequence. Uh, or use the plus symbol to indicate that the speaker is adding an idea, and um, and this is one thing that really important here. make sure that you are familiar with the abbreviations and symbols that you use because you need to understand your notes later when you are answering the question. Yeah. So okay. So um, that is the air five my five top tips for taking notes in listening. So I hope this video was helpful to you. And so now, okay, so thank you for watching. Yeah, and I love to see you here. Now, so goodbye.